Hello and welcome to another Infinite Escape Room pubisode. You join us on the way to Pop's Bar in quiet old Michigan, where we have just solved a little cozy mystery with some missing tomatoes. And as we wander back into Pop's Bar, the place is a lot more lively than it was when we first went in. There's patrons, they're chewing their beers. Listen to the last episode for context. They're drinking absinthe on tap. Everyone's having spaghetti and meatballs with plenty of tomatoes, thanks to Mairi and I's machinations. And we'll pull up a bar for a little bit of a chat with our GM, Eloise. But first, it's my round. So what's everybody drinking?
Hi, Jamie. I would love to say I'm drinking a Bloody Mary after all of that fantastic escape room solving, but I'm not. I'm drinking a Session IPA by Stewart Brewing, which is a little small craft brewery up here in Edinburgh. Their beers are always delicious. I say small, they now are sold in supermarkets, so I probably can't call them small anymore, but they're still small, cute craft brewery to me, and it's lovely.
They're just these little guys with like £1 billion turnover. Hey,
exactly.
Beer,
just little guys.
I love it. Eloise, what can I get you?
Well, it's before noon here as the American on the call, but that's not stopping me. I have a cup of coffee with some apple whiskey from a local distillery, Grand Traverse Distilling Company.
Very nice.
Wait, Grand Traverse Whiskey Company. Oh my gosh, I messed that up. Grand Traverse Whiskey Company.
They just cancelled your sponsorship.
Oh no.
Apple whiskey sounds interesting. I'm not a big whiskey fan, but apple whiskey sounds quite tempting. I like the sound of that.
It's nice and coffee in the morning.
I love whiskey. Is it whiskey though, or is it like bourbon? Like, I don't really know what the difference is, but I feel like bourbon's very big in the US, right?
It is very big. This, I believe, is I don't know, whiskey. I think it's just whiskey. I think bourbon has a lot of fancy things that need to happen in order to call it bourbon, and this is not
probably
that.
Yeah. Okay.
So long as it tastes nice, right? It's all that matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's only bourbon if it's brewed in the bourbon area. Otherwise, it's just sparkling whiskey.
Yeah. In Kentucky, I don't know, Tennessee, somewhere, not here.
And I'm Jamie, and of course, I'm drinking a mead once again. This one is cross-pollination, collaboration with Hivemind and Fierce and Noble. It's called a Summer Honey Saison.
Ooh.
Which I believe is French for season. I don't know.
It is.
Know many languages.
Fancy.
But we'll see. A lot busier than I expected.
Oh.
I saw that fizz up as you drank it in the look of surprise.
I necked it as a more of a mead, but it is more of a honey beer.
Ah.
And yeah, there are no bubbles in me.
No.
It's very nice though. Just unexpectedly fizzy.
Does it taste like as summery as the name suggests?
Yeah, is it a season?
It's less summery than I think a cider would be. Like I'm normally a cider guy in a beer garden, hard cider. For those across the pond listening.
Yep.
I like it fizzy. I like it boozy. So listeners, you come to us at Pop's Bar off the back of last week's episode where we did solve a cozy mystery, helping the bar find their missing tomatoes, which through some deft use of arcading, playing some pool, some fridge magnets, and a secret hatch, we did successfully find the tomatoes and save the fundraiser. So if you have not listened to that episode, please go back and do so. It's very nice and very cozy. But this week we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A with Eloise, whose first book in this the Stone's Throw series,
Stone's Throw Mysteries,
is now out. The first book, Off the Beaten Path. So yeah, what's it all about?
I pitch it as sort of if Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation, the TV show, had to solve a murder. So we have quirky, small town, very tenacious protagonist whose park is on the threat of getting shut down with funding budget cuts, just like why they had the fundraiser that we just helped out with. The very poor timing of a missing tourist's body is found in her park. And so she's sort of thrown into solving the case to try and keep the park open and save her job. She loves this quirky little weird town and wants to stay. So
love it.
Yeah, that's a good time.
That's amazing. And obviously, we were just treated to a fantastic escape room set in the world you've written and designed. So I would love to ask, like, yeah, what's the storytelling process like trying to convert this world you've written in a book format into other formats, like an escape room or maybe into like short stories or anything else like that? What does that look like for you?
I've had this world living in my head rent-free for a few years now. And so it's almost like second nature to just try and play with it at this point. So kind of manipulate it, change it how I want. I think what I want to make sure translates when I do things like this is that the essence, like the vibe, stays the same. But the mechanics of the world, some of the character choices, they can all be played around and flexible. And so Pop's Bar, where we played, is a very important setting, a very important place in not just this book, but in the whole series. And so I wanted to give a little taste of Pop's Bar and sort of that like nostalgic dive bar that regardless of where you live in the world, everyone sort of has that place that they're familiar with. So that was the intent. It was a lot of fun to make.
We're sitting in it now. Great.
5 stars on Yelp, can confirm. Wonderful place, good vibe, good decor, lovely meatballs, good beer.
Yes.
Great
Lovely
tomato
meatballs,
dishes as
good
well. Yeah. Just straight tomatoes. So fresh.
Freshly foraged.
Beautiful. The beer is a bit chewy, though, I will say. It's a little bit chewy. It's odd.
Yeah.
You say that like
We'll
it's a
work
bad
on
thing. It's wonderfully chewy. It's like having soup and a sandwich all in one.
Oh.
God.
Is that just me? No one else wants that?
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned Parks and Rec has been a sort of a similar vibe.
Yes.
I think when we first spoke, you mentioned that it's the Parks and Rec meets Clue.
Yeah.
So what is it about those two things that speaks to you when writing?
So I live in a place not dissimilar from the fictional town of Stones Throw. I'm in Michigan, which is where the book takes place, in a larger city. Stones Throw is like 400, 500 people, a very small village. But there are lots of those coastal villages along the Great Lakes all over the state. And so I grew up going to those places for vacation, having friends, going to the beach, and just these little really tight-knit communities that almost it's like them against the weather. There's really harsh snowstorms and like frozen lakes and like big sand dunes. And it's kind of like a weird geographical place that's really unique. And so I love to just sort of like learning about these people that choose to live in these places where it's gorgeous for a few months out of the year, but a lot of the year it's like very difficult to sort of manage and have a full-time job, and the economics of these places are really interesting too. So there's that background. But in terms of like inspiration from media, I think Clue is just the basic imprint for all murder mysteries in the cozy genre right now, which I love. And I think a lot of people love. It's so silly and like vibey, which is so fun. You can just kind of escape and think about something else, right? And just have your brain be busy for a while. So I love the low stakes of Clue, cozy murder, but it's really fun and campy. And so I wanted to try and keep that like joy, as weird as that sounds, in a murder mystery, like sort of those traditional, like Scooby-Doo, like Clue, like those sort of puzzle-based stories. So
I love it.
I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Have you seen the episode of Parks and Rec where they do that really long treasure hunt and Ron Swanson's running around?
Yes.
Like I'm sort of getting that kind of vibe with this sort of a sort of butch mustachio man running around the town giggling like a schoolboy because he's solving all these riddles.
Yes. Exactly. You get it. That's what we're going for.
That's so good. I guess, besides like Clue then and Parks and Recs and everything, do you have any other big sources of inspiration? Because being an author, you must have to kind of pull from literally everywhere. Like, what else are you into?
Yes, for sure. Oh my gosh, like so many things. It's almost hard to identify. But in terms of books, Agatha Christie is like the OG in this world. And she kind of, in a lot of ways, created this genre. And I think she did a really good job at some of the puzzles. A lot of her stories aren't really aging that well for other reasons, just being so old. But I really love sort of the way that she puts puzzles first. And so the story is really, the characters are important, obviously. I love them. It's really plot driven, which is sort of traditional in this genre. So I would say her and other traditional mystery authors are a big inspiration. The other big one that you guys are probably not familiar with, but we have a national lakeshore here, which is technically a national park, but I don't know, for whatever reason, the government doesn't classify it as a park. But it's this huge 40-mile square plot of land along Lake Michigan that is a huge basis for the state park where the body is found in the book. It has sand dunes that are like skyscraper tall that people tumble down and can hurt themselves.
Oh, do they do like the sand dune surfing? I feel like I've seen videos of this where people kind of surf
you're not
down
supposed
the dune.
to, but yes, people do.
We do not endorse this on this podcast.
We do not. No, there are signs all over that it's like, it is a few $1,000s that we will charge you to come rescue you. So do not come down because you are not getting back up. So there's this really like beautiful, wild, semi-dangerous sort of place that's really near here that's gorgeous hiking and really important culturally to a lot of indigenous people. And so I used that park as sort of the imprint for the town and the like wilderness sort of nature aspects up here. It's one of my favorite places to explore, and it's about a half an hour from where I live. So
sounds beautiful. Is it covered in snow now? Right now,
yes,
though?
Everything is covered in snow now.
You'll see it in a few months when it melts.
Yeah.
Not only is there the sand, there's also the snow on top of it that you've got to
Yes. Extra height. Extra slippy. Be careful.
If you ported this setting into sort of a British sleepy town kind of vibe for a similar vibe, you'd still get the sand dunes, but it would just be a massive grassy hill where people would chase cheese, and you'd be the cheese rolling hill. Like I get.
We could translate pretty good. Yeah, for sure.
So when you mentioned about the cozy genre as being like something that appeals to you, like I've started to see it in a lot of places. It seems to like exploded in popularity as a thing.
Yes.
Like what do you think the general appeal is of sort of cozy murder, cozy mysteries in the past few years?
Being an American right now and being in Britain and Great Britain and a lot of different places, our politics have been changing. And I think a lot of people have been looking to not be constantly overwhelmed by the real world. And I think cozy mysteries are a safe place to escape. So unlike other kinds of mysteries or thrillers that are maybe a little more triggering or a little more like emotionally charged, right? Like thrillers have much more like darker settings and some situations. These are like, there's no blood usually. It's very kind of quaint and happy-go-lucky in a lot of ways. Not totally happy-go-lucky, but I guess it's not as challenging to put yourself in those situations. So I think they're like safe places where our brains are still busy solving puzzles. And so we're kind of preoccupying ourselves. I think that's a big driver for the last 5 or 6 years. We've seen an uptick.
That makes a lot of sense. I should probably try the cozy genre just to switch my brain off for a little bit and be like,
it's good.
Right.
This is nice.
It's making a real come up in like video games as well, actually. Even as you were saying that, I was thinking of so many like cozy puzzle games that are like,
yes,
like unpacking or like a little to the left or like assemble with care, like very like focused puzzly things where you can switch your brain off and put yourself into this lovely warm environment. And yeah, it's the same, I think.
Same in movies, TV shows. Yeah. It's been rising for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. TV. Yeah. Anyway, no, that's really great. I really wanted to ask you, taking a big step back, then more about you in terms of like, where did you get started as an author? Like, yeah, what's your background?
Yeah. I use a pen name. I can say that publicly. And my day job is actually environmental law and policy. So
cool.
I work with our state and federal governments in trying to craft better environmental laws and regulation that works for everybody involved. So I write technical writing and like policy briefs and very buttoned up formal writing all the time. It's like primarily my day job. Creative writing though, I started as a kid, loving it, was the emo teenager writing poetry in my bedroom and being all like angsty against the world.
Love that.
and left
Same.
it until, yeah, right. Like all of us, I feel like all us millennials have that same sort of phase we went through. I picked it back up in COVID when I was just sort of stuck at home and I was reading a ton. And I was like, I have time on my hands. Why don't I sort of just try? And so this was the second book I've written, but the first one I'm publishing. I've had a few short stories published before, but yeah, it was drafted in 2022, I believe. So a couple of years ago, but it's been
Amazing.
fun.
Cool.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah.
What made you think to go from the world that you've created? You've got this novel, this cozy mystery. What made you think, I want to take part of this and turn it into an escape room?
Yeah. So I freelance also. Let's just talk about all the different things, all the jobs I do. I freelance as a murder mystery party game designer. So I design games professionally in some capacity already. Not so much escape room puzzles, but more like you're inviting 20 friends over and you want to play a murder mystery. I write those types of games, as well as a couple cold case, like boxed games that you play detective and try and solve, which are pretty puzzly. And so when I wrote this book, I'm currently editing book 2 in the series. And I just have been immersed in this world for so long. To your guys' point, it's like fun to manipulate it and to play it. And I've listened to your podcast. I've listened to other escape room podcasts for years. I'm a huge escape room fan, like in my free time to do physical rooms. And I thought, what a fun way to try and bring this to people that I think will like this book, right? Like there's a lot of people like me that love these kind of puzzles and games, read these sort of things, kind of like solving puzzles. I just thought it would be a really great fit. And so I like both of these things. I think other people will like both of these things too. So I thought it was a fun transition.
It makes me realize more authors should have an escape room-esque thing as part of their book. Like, you want to be part of this world? Well, look, here you go.
I think so too.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It presents interesting challenges too as a writer to try and think through. And I think this process in writing things like this also influences narrative writing as well. You become more precise in language and think about puzzles in books in a different way. And they definitely benefit one another, I think.
Yeah. I suppose following on from that, then when you mentioned the sort of, you did all the technical documents in your other job, does that help when you're designing the escape room aspect of this, where it's sort of almost like a D&D adventure with like things to look at, things to interact with? Does that part of it help?
Yeah. The interesting thing about like policy writing and law writing is you're really tailoring for your intended audience. So I'm writing things that I know a lot about, subjects I know a lot about, but it's for a legislator who knows nothing about this. And so I think that is also really important in puzzle and game design, is that you sort of have to take yourself out of the end product and say, okay, who is actually going to be playing this? And how can the language that I use try and reinforce the clues that I'm trying to plant and make them clear, not just to myself, but to other people. So that I think is a huge help. And preciseness in language as well, like very particular word choices help, I think, in designing puzzles.
So it's all kind of connected as well, right? Because I feel like everything you're describing, you could insert like writing for the book audience, writing for the, like it's all about picturing that end audience and making the world for them to enjoy and interpret in their own
Hopefully.
way.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, that's amazing. In mind to that, like, I don't know, like, because you've designed this specifically for audio, did writing this mystery for audio rather than any other medium present any interesting opportunities, especially for storytelling?
Yeah, well, I think, Jamie, how you noted the directional lock, that was an intentional choice I thought would be a fun thing for audio. And so I tried to, this room does still require a handful of images, which we can share if you guys want to post wherever. Totally happy to do that. And I tried to minimize that, but still had trouble. So I did sort of like cheat, I feel like, in the audio format by requiring a handful of pictures that needed to be described. That's my
staple.
Yeah, like you got to try and minimize it, right? I don't know like how you get around that with some of these things. So I tried to use sensory clues that I might not for like a book or a physical game or something. and really leaned into kind of the experience of a D&D game, which is just like people around a table communicating, talking, trying to puzzle things out rather than like more like the role play D&D rather than like very specific combat sort of things. So I don't know. Hopefully it was successful.
I'd say so. Yeah. So with the murder mysteries that you create, the games that you've made them for sort of other companies and things like that. What kind of games have you designed?
Yeah, so there's one that's being beta tested right now. It's actually a company based here in the US that is a masquerade theme that's very fun. It's called Murder at the Grimoire Hotel. I believe they're accepting beta testers right now if anyone's interested in doing that. And so I've done a couple of different rooms that are like Western themed, like old Wild West, which is really fun and goofy. I also have done private games. So if someone wants to make a very specific tailored game for a party they're hosting, we've done things like that. For example, that play into the layout of their house or where they are specifically hosting the game, different rooms, and like, you know, you can look at floor plans and create interesting things. Yeah. So that's been just like a side hustle for a while, but it's starting to take off, which is kind of fun. I'm getting like, oh my gosh, too many things to do. I'm trying to sell a book, you know, like gotta design all these things, but good problem to have. Can't be good.
I don't have time to be a successful game designer. I'm too busy being a successful author.
Try.
That's cool. Mairi, didn't you started off doing murder mysteries, didn't you?
I did. I'm also a murder mystery writer. I don't do it as much anymore. I'm more in tabletop board games these days. But yeah, my very first games I invented, big word. The very first games I wrote were murder mysteries. And I think it's that thing, I don't know about you, but for me, it was like, well, I was running parties for friends anyway. And it's like, well, how can we do this a bit differently? And then sort of people played, and then seeing people play kind of builds up the skills around like, well, how can we make this better next time? It's like, I'm not a writer, but it does make you think in a writer's way, like how you're
100%.
constructing the narrative. And so I can totally see that path you took.
Yeah. My sweet spot in my murder mysteries are almost like a hybrid between like mafia style, like social deduction and the traditional murder mystery, like dinner party thing. So there's some game mechanics. There are some like character specific stuff that's kind of fun. So it's like a kind of in the middle of a couple different genres, but super fun. And definitely in the writing mindset, it all reinforces each other, I think, skill-wise.
Totally. One of the things I've started doing in the last few ones I did, and I'm working on a mega game, which is for 50 people, so that's totally separate. But I've started making it points-based. So people have objectives and stuff like that, and you can kind of score objective points based on that. And that's kind of like, I don't even know if we're talking murder mysteries anymore, right? Because it's, again, a game. It's a video game at that point, but
that's so cool.
Being playful with that kind of thing. But actually, this takes me on to another question. What's like kind of in the future for you? Are you going to keep designing more games, or is the focus much more on the book over the next few years or so?
So the book 2 and book 3 will come out around the same time in the spring in 2026 and 2027. So we have those 3 lined up. I'm also trying to sell another murder mystery that I have written. So hopefully that will get picked up by a publisher and come out in the next couple of years. That one is also, I would say, cozy-ish, not quite as quaint and cozy, a little darker, but
more blood.
A little more blood. It's like a haunted house, so there's sort of some like Halloween-y kind of themes. That's a lot of fun, a little scarier maybe. But yeah, so hopefully something like that. The dream would be to sort of start minimizing the policy work and focusing specifically on just writing and games. And so maybe in the next couple of years, we'll try and like slowly transition the work time to this stuff, which is a little more fun in today's climate than policy.
Totally. We need both, though. We need both.
We do need both. Yes.
Both,
we do need both. Yeah.
How much has the environmental side of things like impacted your has it impacted the way that you've written the novel? Does it feature? Have you tried to separate the two, or are they sort of intertwined?
I try and separate the two in terms of my online presence so that very important people don't find my silly little mysteries when they Google my name. But otherwise, content-wise, they are very intertwined. So Stone's Throw, the state park, is like the primary setting here. And a big tension is between like development and keeping this park as a conservation, like natural space, which is a very real tension that we are facing here and everywhere. It definitely is featured, and not necessarily reflecting totally of my own personal views, but definitely presents the same challenges that if Stone's Throw were real, the real place would face, environmentally speaking, for sure.
You said you were an escape room fan, and I am.
Yeah.
We're all such escape room fans, hence the podcast name. Do you have any favorites? Because I need holiday recommendations.
Yeah. Okay. So I think surprisingly, I don't know, how much do you guys know about the weird middle states in the U.S.? Is that like common knowledge, or is it like California and New York, and that's kind of it?
I know their names.
We know the middle ones are weird, but that's...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair. I can say that because I'm from here. Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota, I think in like the Midwest has phenomenal escape rooms, which is kind of surprising, but it is so freaking cold up there that I feel like they just like have to find fun things to do.
Yeah.
So the escape room scene in Minneapolis, St. Paul is really spectacular. I live in a pretty rural area, so we have a handful within an hour's drive from me, some of which are much higher quality than others. And I think the rooms that I find successful are not necessarily the ones with the highest like production value, but just ones with the most interesting puzzles. So puzzle design I go back to as I think is like the most important thing, and that can just change from room to room also.
When you've done sort of the murder mysteries, how has that helped to inform like the writing side of things? Have you been able to sort of use those skills when you've crafted the mystery side of the Stone's Throw mysteries?
Yes, I think so. There is a small puzzle in book 1. Which is kind of fun. I don't want to say it's like a puzzle book. It's very much like a murder mystery clue sort of book. But there is a puzzle, which was a fun little Easter egg. And books 2 and 3 have more. So I sort of leaned into that, I think. And that's a huge product of having been designing games since I first drafted the first book. So I've been leaning in that direction because I think it's fun. And I think reading those, having that like aha moment, is such a satisfying feeling. So why not give that in a novel too? You know?
Yeah.
Let the reader.
This is such a fun thing you can add in 6 months after the book is launched. You can go, oh, by the way, readers.
Yeah.
There's a mystery for you to solve in this book. You're like, what? I'm going to read it again.
Yes. That'll be the second and third. But the first one, like I said, just a little like teaser puzzle almost. But yeah, the second and third.
Of every chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get
like a secret treasure hunt. I love a book that does that, like a secret below the surface treasure hunt and like disguises itself as a normal book. And then, did anyone spot it? We should totally do that. If anyone's listening and they wanted to become like an author or a puzzle designer or something like that, would you have any advice to share for them?
So I think in terms of writing, like being an author, the best thing you can do is read, honestly, which seems like a lame response. But if you just can gather, it's like gathering data for what you want to create. You learn what you like, what you don't, especially in mysteries, right? There are so many different ways that you can kill people, which is a lot of fun. Or
I bet you have a great Google search history.
Oh my God. You guys think I've said bad stuff on here so far. Like, oh my God, yeah, it's rough. We don't need to talk about that.
Garrote wire. No.
Yeah, not great. But so if you can learn like what you find satisfying in mysteries, what clues you gravitate towards, that's really important because there's lots of ways they can go and lots of people have different preferences. So I would say that would be in terms of writing a book, read 5 in the genre that you want to write and then start thinking about it. Puzzle design. You guys are puzzle designers too. I don't know. What do you think? I think maybe the same sort of thing is like do escape rooms, or like buy one of those boxes that are like the little murder mystery cold case files and just do them and see what you gravitate towards, and listen to this podcast, right? Like see what other people are doing and what is interesting to you.
That's an official recommendation, listeners.
Yeah.
Please listen to this podcast. I mean, you already are, because you can hear it.
You're already here.
Tell people to listen to the podcast.
I think what I take from what you just said as well, like design or write the things that you would want to read and play yourself, right? Like, I guess design for yourself, because then presumably you have good taste in yourself.
Well, also
make the thing you want.
You're sitting with that thing for a countless number of hours before it is done. So you need to not hate it, right? Because you're going to be with it for hundreds of hours before, for example, this book got published. I can't tell you how many times I've read it so far. So
you can probably recite it word for word at this point.
Almost.
And now a live audiobook reading from Eloise Corvo.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I agree that like playing those games often enough, once you start to get into the rhythm, if you've got that little spark of wanting to design puzzles, you'll start to go, I could do that.
Yeah.
Or like once you've played enough, you start to just walk around and you'll start to see patterns everywhere.
You're totally right, though. That's one of my favorite exercises as well. Well, not even an exercise, but just like puzzle block or writer's block. For me, I like look around and I'm like, well, let's say I had to design a puzzle for this can of beer. And then you start to look at the patterns and you start to see sort of what makes sense, who set the puzzle, why would this be printed on the side of the beer? And you just kind of like extrapolate from there, and it can kind of force you to think in a different way.
Well, the story's set in Michigan. How important was it for you to have that as the centerpiece for the novel? Like, was that the spark that whatever it's going to be here, or did that come like as you were writing it?
I knew it was going to be placed here because this is where I am. So I grew up in Michigan. I'm familiar with the area, and what I feel like is very clear when you read books is the author knows the setting, or they very clearly don't, and they're just like kind of trying and throw a few references in. And I wanted this place to feel very like intimate, in that we know what these people are going through. We know their motivations for different things. And to be authentic, it kind of had to be here because I'm the one writing it, right? So like if I were to write a story in a little village in England, that would be awesome and very fun, but not having any real depth of knowledge of what it's like to live in those places or what sort of things those people go through. I feel like I would throw in a couple random British references and make it like a generic town. And that's not fun to read, I don't think, or to write. So it was just sort of, well, this is what I know. So this is what I'm going to do.
I mean, it would be fun to try and do a quaint English murder mystery that's just with no knowledge or research whatsoever, just based on purely what you've heard. Some guy bursts through the door of the pub wearing dungarees and a bag of fish, speaking entirely Cockney.
Yep, exactly. In rhyming slang that makes no sense, just random words. Yes, that's like all we have. Warm beer. Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure the beer's chewy. That's a good British beer.
So gross. If you had to write a book set somewhere else, or let's say hypothetically, someone gave you unlimited money and they were like, you can go on a writer's retreat anywhere in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Where would you like to go / write your next book there?
That is such a fun question. I think I love Europe, been a few times. All the countries I visited have been very fun. And I think getting like a little tiny apartment in a small town in Tuscany somewhere would be so cool, right? Like there's already sort of that like macabre, dark kind of vibe, like Castle of Amontillado sort of thing you could do. And so I think that would be really fun. And just sort of like we're saying, like immerse yourself in this place. Italy, I think somewhere Tuscany would be my top choice.
Oh,
no shade.
Excellent choice.
You could do the room that you did for us last week. You could just do the exact same thing. Just change pops to papas. They have tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's the same
pizza
room.
Sauce. Yeah.
Literally. And the meal was spaghetti as well. So
this is
perfectly.
Yeah, that's true.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
On a similar note then, if you needed to turn part of a book, any book, into an escape room experience, either audio or a real one, what would you go for?
Books that I love that I think could be fun, but also might be a little tropey already for escape rooms. Like to do a Gadsby room would be cool because a lot of it is set in a house, right? Or on like one property. I think for rooms to be successful, you need to kind of like pick a place that's meaningful and recognizable, right? That's why I chose Pop's Bar, because it's like a physical one place. It's not like you're running around the woods the whole time and can just like endlessly run into the woods. So I think like a Gadsby room would be really cool. But I know there's like a lot of 1920s kind of stuff that's kind of tropey in the murder mystery genre. I have been reading a lot of vampire stuff lately and like watching old episodes of True Blood, which is really cool. So maybe like a Louisiana vampire bayou kind of room would be really fun to make. And with all the weird characters they have too, like werewolves and shapeshifter, that could present some really fun puzzles potentially too. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
I love it. I think enough time has passed from the sort of the vampire romance craze, that you got people who are kind of nostalgic for that now. So I think a room that's actually set like a True Blood room sounds brilliant. I'll go for it.
10 years old, perfect.
Yeah, such a good idea. Would you make the vampires sparkly though? That's my big question.
No, absolutely not.
What if they reflect?
You answered how I expected. Yeah, so shiny.
Shiny
UV torch at color. He's like, wait a second, there's some letters.
Maybe that's it. And like their veins show different patterns, or like a map or something. There could be all kinds of goofy stuff.
This is $1 million idea. I'm writing this down.
Next book. For a future episode.
You're welcome.
Like Jamie just hosts the next one. It's like Edward Cullen walks in the room, so shiny, and we're like,
why did this escape room get sexy all of a sudden? This isn't
slow music. Why is everything in slow motion?
Right, you heard it here first, folks. The world's first Twilight escape room coming to the Infinite Escape Room podcast. I'm going to make it happen.
I regret my choices.
Right, I do believe that Pop is going to be ushering us out of the bar pretty soon, because I have chewed all of the beer, we have eaten all of the meatballs, and we haven't put any money in the fundraiser pot just yet. So we might be thrown out of our ears, and that state park is not going to get the money it needs. And it's probably my fault because I've drank all of the beer. But before we do, one thing we do on this podcast at the end of the pub episode is we all give a recommendation for something for you to check out.
I've actually got a couple. One is serious and one is silly, which I feel like is maybe fitting. Yeah. Okay. So silly, Dreadful by Caitlin Rosikis is a book that is so goofy and fun that I think if you like the off the wall kind of vibe of this podcast, you will enjoy it. It's about a villain, a super villain kind of guy that has amnesia in the middle of his dastardly plot and now has to figure out what the hell he was trying to do and wrestling with kind of like, what does it mean to be good and evil? Very cute, a little cozy, very silly. Serious is There's Treasure Inside by John Collins Black. So if you guys are puzzle fans, which I'm assuming you are, this is a real live treasure hunt going on right now in the United States. All the clues are encased in this book. It's a little expensive, but honestly, I think kind of worth it. 5 different treasures hidden around the United States right now, with clues inside this book. So
that is so cool.
Get hunting. Yeah.
Also, can I just say one of the treasures, I just Googled it now, is a Michael Jordan basketball card. Sorry, he doesn't play baseball. I don't know. But
there's also, there's like Pokemon cards. There's like really kind of crazy, like old treasure from like, centuries ago that's been unearthed, and gems and all kinds of stuff. It's worth a lot of money, I think.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear about like a really cool actual treasure hunt, it's always in the US. Like in the UK, if we did that, it would just be like some guy's fish that he bet 50 years ago, and that would be the treasure.
What about
you found my
the
fish,
golden hair? That was iconic and British. Do you remember that? I say remember. It was in the 80s. We don't remember it, but the golden hair was British. And it ended up being something really cool. Like the final coordinates was like you had to stand in a field at a certain time of day, and like a plinth in the center of town shined the shadow. Like there was one iconic in the 80s.
That sounds a lot like the introduction to a cult. That sounds a lot like how you get in a cult. Is
My recommendation is a video game called Blue Prince. So Blue Prince, 2 words, as opposed to Blueprints. And it is a completely genre-defying game, and this company that made it, I think they're called Dogu Bomb. They released the demo mid last year. I played the demo for about 12 hours, and this was like a half an hour demo, and I loved this game so much. I just kept playing it. It is a mystery game. It's like a puzzly mystery, and the premise is you're wandering through this house and you're trying to get to the center of the house. And every time you reach a door, you can draw a card, and you've got like 3 choices of cards of like what room is behind that door. So it kind of looks like blueprints. And so you're building out the house and trying to get to this like maze-like middle room in the house. And it's just such an interesting mystery, and it's so well done, and it's very replayable. So even this like short little demo, you could just keep going because you draw different cards the next time. And even though it was a demo, it was my game of the year. Like I did another podcast and we were like, what's your puzzle game of the year? And I was like, Blueprints. And they were like, but it's a demo. And I was like, even if they change nothing about the demo, it's my favorite game from last year. Anyway, so it's launching, quote, this spring. So I'm going to confidently say, if nothing else, the release date has probably been announced by the time this podcast airs. So that is my recommendation. If it's not out, play the demo. It's so fun. If it's out, play the full game. I'm sure it's going to be great.
I wrote it as Blueprints, as in the son of the king is sad. That kind of blueprints, not blueprints.
Yes.
It is blueprints.
Yes. It's Blueprints, like the son of the king.
Oh, it is the Blueprints.
It's Blueprints. However, the whole game is themed like blueprints. It's a double entendre. It's very clever wordplay.
Nice. I want to recommend a book called High Voltage. I'm like halfway through it at the moment, but I'm really enjoying it. It's one of the few books that I've read outside of Terry Pratchett that's made me chuckle aloud on the bus and given me weird looks. It's a steampunk, lighthearted heist book by Chris and Jen Sugden. It started off as a podcast thing called Victoriosity. Yeah, it's bonkers. Queen Victoria is a sort of a cyborg. Greater London has encapsulated most of the south of the UK and is called Even Greater London, and it's just steampunk gone bananas. And it follows an inspector and a journalist trying to solve a series of bank heists that the police can't even solve. But it's a steampunk, which aligns with my aesthetic sensibilities quite perfectly, and it is daft. It's quite rare for me to be that idiot guffawing on the bus while he's reading a book, but it did that, and I'm only halfway through, so I'm really looking forward to the rest of it. Yeah, High Voltage by Chris and Jen Sugden, and check out the podcast as well because it's really well done, really high production value. Victoriosity.
So the front cover looks fantastic. I want that just for my shelf to like
neon. It's really
cool.
Yeah. And anything adjacent to Terry Pratchett is like up my alley. Anything funny like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's less outright ridiculous than Pratchett, but it's got it's got an earnest humor that I really enjoyed while reading it. So definitely check it out. So yeah, High Voltage, the novel's called.
I should clarify for the sake of we're spelling things correctly. I searched high voltage, how you would expect to spell voltage. It's not. It's VAULTAGE. So like
bank vault.
Like I was going to go with a Fallout vault, but vault voltage kind of thing.
So much wordplay.
Today's episode has been sponsored by Wordplay. So I do believe now we are being ushered out of Pop's Bar into the cold Michigan blizzard. I hope you all wrapped up warm. You have your hard cider and all glasses of absinthe with you, and that chewy beer that we love so much as we wander around. Does this town have a karaoke bar or a sushi bar? Some sort of late night place we can go to?
Nope.
Home then.
Sure doesn't. Yeah, the woods.
And once more, for people listening, where can they find you and where can they find your book?
Yeah, the book is online where all books are sold, including, hopefully, maybe your local independent retailer. So support your local bookshops. I can be found at EloiseCorvo.com, as well as a slew of social media sites, which are mostly at Eloise Corvo, with the exception of TikTok, which is at author_Eloise Corvo.
Excellent. We'll put all the links to those in the show notes, as well as the links to all of our recommendations as well. But that is it for now. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you get your